Okay, I will call to order the regular meeting, the May 2nd regular meeting of the West Lafayette Community School Corporation Board of School Trustees. We will start with approval of the agenda for the May 2nd meeting. Can I get a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Before we start, I need to remind everyone, and for those of you watching, we've made a small change to the way that we're voting because there have been some issues with inaudible votes and sound. So when I call for the vote, I will ask all of those voting in the affirmative to raise their hand. Keep it raised while we tally the vote, and then all those opposed will raise your hand, please. You can also answer audibly if you would like to, but I need your hand. That'll be actually what triggers the vote tonight. We'll try this and see if it works. All right, so can I get a motion, please, for approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Schott, second by Mr. Marley. Any questions, changes, discussion about the agenda? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the agenda tonight?
Aye.
7 ayes. Approval of the minutes of the April 4th regular meeting of the School Board of Trustees. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Springer. Second by Mrs. Austin. Any discussion, changes, comments to those? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes? Raise your hand. Aye. Any of those, is that an affirmative, Dr. Yin? Yes, okay, 7 to 9, please. All right, unfinished business, we have none, academic achievement, student recognition, the RDP Way to Go Awards, and it looks like Mrs. Johnson is not here, so Dr. Greiner, are you taking that one?
I do get the honor. Good evening. At this time, we'd like to recognize our West Side Way to Go Award recipients. This award was created to recognize students who have exemplified good citizenship qualities that are basic to our school district's mission. Recipients are selected by their teachers and administrators, and we recognize 2 students from each building this evening. We're going to start with our elementary students.
Good evening. I am excited. Keller, come on up here, buddy. Looks so handsome tonight. All right, Keller, we're going to stand right here, and then I'm going to say a lot of really nice things because you work really hard. Just hold a second. Keller is in Miss Webb's kindergarten classroom. He is a quiet leader in the classroom and always going above and beyond to make the classroom a great place to be. He is the first one to jump up to help a friend and carefully observes his fellow peers and even the teachers in his life so he can know how to make them feel loved. His heart is so pure, and our classroom and our school are so lucky to have him in it. Mr. Keller Jenkins. All right, Miss Emmy, come on up. This is Miss Emerson Gustus. Emmy, you hold this right here. Emmy is always in tune. She is in Mr. Brantley's 3rd grade classroom. Emmy is always in tune with the emotions of others and always has the most uncomplicated look at life. She can be incredibly insightful and profound while also being there for her friends or classmates. People around her just feel the good vibes and seem to just feel better because of her presence. Emmy Gustus. Picture. That way we can make sure and get on that picture. So I'm going to have you go over there. We got to do this like Mrs. Johnson does, so she makes sure that we have what we need. All right, smile right there, Mr. Brantley. Perfect. Thank you so much. Nicely done.
Good evening. I'm Angela Harold, the Dean of Students at Willis, and I'm here to represent our Willis awardees. Our first one, unfortunately, is not here tonight because he's having a much better evening singing camp songs and making s'mores and living the good life. So good for him. His name is Kellen Scott. He's a 5th grader with Mrs. Lane Reichert as his teacher. Kellen is a role model student in and out of our classroom. Daily, he can be found doing the right thing, trying his best on everything he does, challenging himself and encouraging others around him to be their best. Academically, he is enthusiastic about learning. He's always making connections to what we are studying and participating in class discussions. Kellen has a helping heart. He's always one of the first ones to jump in and help a classmate in need or assist an adult in the room. He takes being respectful and being a good friend seriously. He always checks on those around him and makes sure that they are doing okay. We're so lucky to have Kellen in our school and our classroom. Let's give him a round of applause. Mr. Logan DeFord, you were up next. Come on up, superstar. This is yours. All right, stay over here. Don't be shy. All right, so Logan is a 6th grader in Mrs. Courtney Hollingsworth's classroom. She said, Logan is a hard worker achieving high academic excellence, personally responsible, and most importantly, kind to all. Logan goes out of his way to show small acts of kindness and inclusiveness to others. Logan goes out of his way to make everyone feel welcome. He's eager to lend a hand to a peer in need or offer assistance in the classroom as well. He does this each day without seeking praise or recognition. It's just truly who he is. Logan's always doing the right thing and leading others with his quiet and steady example of leadership. Logan DeFord is a shining example of the West Side way. Way to go, dude.
Hi, good evening. I'm Ron Schreiner, principal at the junior senior high, and we're excited tonight to have our 2 representatives. So first, Olivia, if you would come up, please. And while she's coming up, Olivia was nominated by Mrs. Fordyce, and her comments are that she really would like to nominate Olivia because she's had the privilege of teaching and coaching her for the past year. So Olivia is an amazing classmate, peer, and friend. Mrs. Fordyce has witnessed this on multiple occasions in just one school year. Junior high can be a really difficult time for many students. School extracurriculars that are new, and social life, all of that can become more demanding during this time, creating more stress for some. And Olivia is just always there, willing to support fellow junior high students, stands out to do that. And during this time that it's really important to have friends, she is one. She has the amazing ability to be a friend who can make you laugh and forget about your worries. She's also willing to be quiet and supportive when you just need someone there by your side, as testimony of other kids your age. They're saying this. I've been very impressed watching these interactions throughout this school year, and Westside is so fortunate to have Olivia Lewis. She's an amazing student, athlete, but I feel that the biggest impact she makes is by how much she cares for her Westside classmates. So congratulations, Liv. Next is Fisher. And we have to make sure when we're finished, everybody gets this posted for Fisher. He's worried about that. So he just said, I'm not sure what he just said. All right, Fisher, you've been nominated by Mrs. Hart. She's right over there. And her comments are that she thinks that Fisher Trotsky is a great person to receive the West Side Way to Go Award. She's had Fisher in class all year, and she's had the opportunity to see him learn and grow over time. Fisher has an excellent sense of humor and makes a positive impact on his peers. He's really dependable, and I can always count on him to focus, work hard, and be an active learner. Most importantly, Fisher is inclusive, which means going to Mrs. Hart, that means going out of his way to make sure everyone in the class is included and participating in lab activities. I'm so glad to have Fisher as part of our class. So thank you, Fisher.
So thank you to all of you. Students who are here to be recognized, we know it's a busy time of year. This is your opportunity to get up and run out the door onto your daily lives. You're welcome to stay. We invite that, but you're also welcome to go about your evening. Thank you so much for being here tonight with us. All right, so we'll move on with item number 3, new school board policies, and Dr. Greiner. No, I'm sorry, communications from the audience on agenda items, we have none. I should have said that more clearly. Item number 3, new school board policies, first reading of 2, Dr. Greiner.
So we have 2 new policies, and this will be considered the first reading, so there will be no vote tonight on these 2. One is policy 164.5, and it is related to member participation in board meetings through electronic means of communication. Basically, board members can attend if there are 50% or more physically at the board meeting, then a board member may attend via electronic communication for up to 2 consecutive meetings, and then on that 3rd meeting, they would need to attend in person. The second board policy, and that's through House Education Act 1437. The second policy is policy 164.6, and that is related to meetings during a disaster or emergency. If the governor or the executive of a political subdivision states that we are under disaster emergencies, then the board may attend electronically. And of course, with regard to quorum and so forth, those rules apply.
Are there any questions for Dr. Greiner about these policies? Go ahead, Dr. Yin.
Yeah, I asked a question about the first one, the attending meeting while electronic devices. And so my question is, given that the potential board members can be Purdue faculty members who may take a sabbatical leaves for half a year every 6 years, then people may take their sabbatical leaves in other places, even in other countries. So with this rule, the board member cannot attend the meeting remotely more than twice in a row. I feel that will discourage potential candidates for board members. So even those who don't live here locally, maybe their family members in other states or something who need care. And I just feel maybe half a year might be a better time than just 2 months in a row.
Thank you for your question. I understand this to be state law, not something that we've made. Is that correct, Dr. Greiner?
That's state law, but the 2
Yes.
consecutive, correct?
Yeah, let me clarify this for you. This was a new law passed by the state legislature last spring, 2021. So our policy actually mirrors word for word the law. Now, what this means, somebody who's, let's say, on sabbatical or caring for an ill parent or whatever, since we have electronic board packets now, that board member could still receive the board packet, could still attend the board meeting electronically, would have voting rights for 2 consecutive meetings, and then unfortunately would not have further voting rights. But that board member would have full access to the board packet, be able to participate in the meeting and ask questions, but unfortunately after 2 meetings would not be able to vote. It's state law.
So if we want to appeal this, then who should we talk to?
Well, you contact your state legislatures and ask them to amend the law.
Okay, so this is for all the elected officials?
Yes. We're dealing with this now with Park Board, or we had throughout the year, when the mayor would declare city meetings to be held virtually and or in person. We have to make sure that we follow this law regarding board member participation. So we've had board members who, if they are on virtually for 2 meetings, then the next meeting they do have to be in person.
I heard the West Lafayette City Council had been, during the pandemic, they had been doing the meetings on Zoom. So Was,
Well, the mayor had declared emergency, so in that case, all their meetings were on Zoom.
okay, so during emergency, that's,
Yes, that's the
okay.
second policy that we're dealing with tonight, or talking about for first readings, is the 0164.6, meetings during disaster emergencies. So for example, back when the pandemic started in March of 2020, we as a whole board met virtually, I believe, in April and May and June. 2 or 3 times, yes.
okay. So suppose a faculty member is a board member and who is taking a sabbatical leave in other countries. And then after attending the meeting electronically twice in a row, that person has to come back at least once
If they want to
to
vote,
attend the meeting in person, then he or she can go back and attend the meeting electronically again.
yes, that board member could attend all the meetings electronically for 6 months and ask questions and participate in the meeting. It's just they would only have voting rights for the first 2 consecutive meetings.
But I think your question, second part of the question was, if you came back that third meeting, then you could vote, and if you left again for 2 more consecutive.
Correct,
yeah, then
correct.
you could vote.
But then there's another part of the bill that states a board member cannot attend electronically for more than 50% of the meetings in a given year.
Oh, so just to clarify, the board member can attend up to 50% of the meeting per year remotely. Just
Yes.
after the first 2 meetings, that person won't have the voting right for the
Next.
but the
Unless
person
they
can
come back
still
first.
stay on board.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you for the clarification.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. That is just for information. We'll bring that back on the agenda in our next meeting for vote. Moving on to item 4, school board policy revisions. These are revisions only, and this is a first reading, 1 reading only, so we will vote on this one. Go ahead, Dr. Greiner.
Okay, and this looks like there's a lot of policies, but it's actually just, so 3 of these policies are actually related to multiple categories, and so they're listed in those categories. And so what I mean by that, non-discrimination of equal employment opportunity, anti-harassment, and non-discrimination based on genetic information of the employee. Those all fall under 3 categories, and so it looks like that's times 3 times 3, but it's really 3 within 3 categories: administration, professional staff, and support staff. And those are revisions based on Indiana code and/or to become more consistent with the new Title IX policies. So with that, I would recommend these policies be approved by the board.
Okay, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Karpik.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schott. Questions, discussion, anyone?
I'm not sure whether it covers the file with the compliance officers yet. So for the harassment, that piece, because there's so many policies, so.
Yes, and so we have, okay, with Title IX, there was the recommendation that there is a male title, a compliance officer, and a female. And so with Title IX, and this would be one of those where I was talking about consistency, with Title IX, we have Mrs. Schott and Mr. Strode, so the male and the female compliance officers. And so with these other policies, then we have, for purposes of consistency, assign those individuals as compliance officers too. And I think you'd asked the question about training. They have been assigned some training, but there's a caveat to that, as well as the training that we've assigned them. If there's a situation where they're working through a complaint, our attorney will work very closely with them and guide them along the way just to ensure that they're getting the support they need and that their questions are being answered along the way.
Okay, so suppose in a situation, students or staff members, whoever, have something to complain, and besides reporting to them, can they still report the problem to, let's say, counselor for students and other teachers? I remember before there's it said if there's a problem, you can report to anyone.
Great.
So, but now with the compliance officers, I wonder whether students can still report the problem to other teachers, or they need to only report the problems to the two officers.
That's a great question. I think I'm going to restate what I think you're saying because it's a great point. So, and if I'm wrong on this, you can say, no, I misunderstood. I think you're saying if they want to actually just go and work it out at the school and they want to get support like from the counselor, which a counselor is very supportive in that approach, can they do that rather than file a complaint? That's absolutely, they can do that and would be encouraged to do that at the school level. But it's if they're at a level where it's such a discomfort and that they are actually filing a formal complaint, then that's when they would reach out to Mr. Strode or Mrs. Schott. But yes, anytime there's any kind of conflict, if they can go to the counselor and get support and or even the supervisor and work through the process, that's a great approach for sure.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor of this first reading, this is one reading only, so these policies will be put in place, please raise your hand to indicate yes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's 7-0. All right, we'll move into item 5, return to in-person learning. Dr. Greiner.
I would like to recommend a revision to the return to in-person learning plan, making masks optional on our yellow school buses. You may recall that about 3 weeks ago, the federal judge overturned the federal requirement for masking on public transportation. And so for several weeks now, our 7th grade through seniors have been mask optional. And so for consistency purposes, and because as of the 3rd, that federal requirement was scheduled to expire anyway, we are recommending that we move to mask optional. Of course, encouraging any students wishing to continue to wear a mask to continue and do so, just like is happening in our schools. We would recommend that at this time we go mask optional on our school buses.
Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mrs. Austin,
Second.
second by Mr. Marley. Discussion, questions for Dr. Greiner?
As Dr. Greiner explained, we will continue to monitor the numbers, right? So if there's a kind of significant increase, and we will revise the policy. And
Yes, we would continue to monitor, and we have that posted on the website now, and gets quite a few takes, by the way, too. I'm looking at that. Mrs. Julian had reported, and we would work with our doctors and under their advisement like we've done, so nothing there would change.
okay, thank you. Oh, by the way, I heard a community feedback. People really appreciated the stats we shared with the community regarding the case numbers in different schools.
Good, thank you for that.
Appreciate that information, so they know whether kids should continue to wear masks and so on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? By a show of hand, please. All those in favor of approving the return to in-person learning? That's 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to number 6, continuing disclosure. Mr. Olhout.
Thank you. As an issuer of municipal bonds, West Lafayette Community School Corporation must provide information about any material changes to the financial condition of the school corporation to the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board via EMA, the Electronic Municipal Market Access System, on an annual basis or as the changes occur. The West Lafayette Community School Corporation has contracted the services of Baker Tilly to make sure that these updates are properly submitted. We'd like to continue with this arrangement. There was in the board packet an engagement letter with Baker Tilly that outlines the service and the associated fees. So the business office would request that the motion and approval of this engagement letter.
Okay, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Marley,
Second.
second by Mr. Karpick. Questions, discussion, anyone?
We've had a, excuse me. may I
Please.
speak? We've had, with Baker Tilly, we've had a long relationship with them.
Correct. With this and with other things as well.
Okay.
Okay. Let's proceed with the vote. All those in favor of item 6, continuing disclosure agreement, please raise your hand. That's 7 ayes, no nays. The motion passes. Item number 7, waiver of protected taxes resolution. Mr. Olhout.
Thank you. This waiver of protected taxes, what it allows us to do is to spread the anticipated circuit breaker losses of about $1.3 million proportionally between the operations fund and the debt service fund. We've used the protected taxes waiver over the years, and we budgeted accordingly for the 2022 budget year. So we would like to have the board's approval to continue using the protected taxes waiver for this year.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Marley,
Second.
second by Mr. Schott. Questions, discussion?
Just because I'm not familiar with this, so I wonder, can you explain a little bit more about how it works? So the breaker thing.
Sure. So we have several tax levy funds, the referendum fund, the operations fund, and the debt service fund. The referendum fund is not affected by the circuit breaker losses, that is property tax caps that protect taxpayers from certain percentage of their property being levied in tax. So each taxing unit experiences some level of circuit breaker loss in their debt service fund and their operations fund. By default, the debt service fund doesn't get those property tax cap losses applied to it. And all of those losses apply to the operations fund. But the state legislature allows for school corporations to waive the protection of the debt service tax levy so that the losses will apply proportionally to the debt service fund and the operations fund. And we've budgeted anticipating using that waiver so that all of the losses do not fall in the operations fund.
Okay, thanks.
We've been doing this on a regular basis for years.
For many years.
Many years.
Any other questions? Discussion? Okay. All those in favor of item 7, waiver of protected taxes resolution, please raise your hand. It'd be 7 aye, 0 nay. Item number 8, title adoption of textbooks and course fees for 22-23 school year. Mr. Olhout.
So each year at this time, we ask for the board's approval for the course fees across all the grade levels, K to 12. We're asking for your approval for the course fees again this year, and also new textbook title adoptions in mathematics. And in the board packet, you will see a grade by grade listing of those fees, a grade by grade listing of the textbook adoptions, and course by course, of course, at the junior, senior high school level.
I know we have more information on this. Let's get it on the table first. Do I have a motion? Moved by Dr. Springer, second by Mrs. Austin. Questions?
Do we want to have presentation?
I think, yeah, we're interested in understanding the process of your textbook adoption. So Dr. Taggart, could we start with the Lovelies K through 3? Yes, that would be wonderful.
Our process is led by Mrs. Delaney, our assistant principal. She couldn't be here this evening, so I'm going to help share some of the information that we discuss as it goes along. Anytime that we have a resource adoption, we designate a team of teachers who volunteer, who want to be a part of it. And so we try to have equal representation from the different areas. So this year for math, we had Mrs. Delaney as the leader, 2 teachers per grade level, and our math interventionist that serves our students at school. So their first layer was to poll the teachers and see what things were important to them and what they wanted to see in this incoming resource. So that included pre-assessments, additional practice, enrichment opportunities built into the lessons, user-friendly digital platform, at-home supports, focus on conceptual understanding, and elements to support equity for all students. The Wabash Valley Education Center provides what they call textbook caravan. It's a showcase of the resources. They vet them to make sure that they meet the Indiana academic standards. And so then our staff members attend that as part of the vetting process for what we would like. The team narrowed it down to 3 publishers, and then we receive sample kits, sample materials, everything that they are willing to provide us, including we had Zoom or in-person presentations for any staff member that wanted to attend and ask questions and be a part of it. So we were able to narrow that down to the final selection, which you've seen is the Savas Envision Math. We did find that it met all of the things that we were looking for, and at different points more. For instance, some of our team really was excited about the fact that so many resources were provided for English language learner students, and it exceeded any of the other resources that they investigated for our students. So apologize if that's more information than you wanted, but that's the process that we took to get to where we are.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are you doing, Mrs. Harold, are you doing it for the intermediate school?
I can echo that our processes are
Very similar.
I don't know exactly who the representation, but the team development, the process, the vetting, the textbook caravan, everything is mirrored.
The same. Thank you. I won't put you on the spot. Okay, all right. Mr. Schreiner for the 7th through 12th graders, please.
Sure. Yeah, I can give you a little sketch of how that works. Every 6 years, schools used to have by the legislature or the IDOE was more of a every 6 years, and now it's not so much, but most of our departments choose to adopt something maintaining that cycle. So back to fall of 2021, publishers begin sending samples of their new text and materials offerings. It's usually a box of materials that goes along with the textbook. The department chair asks for 2 to 3 teachers to serve on a committee for each course. Teachers gave suggestions for parents because we want that representation as well. And so the teachers traditionally begin by directly asking parents of students who've most recently had the courses that they're teaching, they're most familiar with, the kids have been through. During the cycle, the math department did not ask for any further assistance with finding more parents. So sometimes that happens, and we'll reach out with parent council and other ways to find more parents who might be interested in that review. The department reported to me that they were also mindful this time, perhaps more than others, of the spread of our student demographic, and they sought out parents from a variety of backgrounds. I think they made a really conscious effort to do that this year. Mid-year, January, February, committees identified up to 3 potential texts for each course that met the standards, Indiana standards for content, and our own level of standards for rigor and usefulness as a teaching tool, which is what is about at the extent of a textbook anyway. In addition to what was sent to us, we also contacted other publishers and spoke to sales representatives to be sure we were getting materials most likely to meet our needs. We were also given PD time as a department and reviewed textbooks together in real time, and they found that to be very productive, so we got an attaboy for that. That time that they had. Participating parents reviewed all of the potential texts for a particular purchase, and they filled out a form containing open-ended questions about each text they reviewed. And I can tell you some of those questions. Are there enough exercises to provide sufficient practice to help students understand concepts? Do the questions cover a sufficient range of difficulty? If not, what is missing? Are the examples in the text of sufficient quantity and quality? Are real-world problems and applications presented? And are they relevant to the students? Does the textbook seem to be lacking anything? If so, what is it? What features stand out to you as particularly desirable? Another question, would you expect a student to be able to read this text and comprehend a typical lesson on their own? Another, bearing in mind the target audience, do you feel that this text is too hard, too easy, and why is that? Do you think that the average parent could glean enough from reading a section of this book to be able to help their child with the homework in that section? Is there anything in this text that stands out, either good or bad, from a diversity, equity, and inclusion standpoint? And also a final request of the parent reviewers was, what other observations would you like to share? So that happened midwinter. This past month in April, all of the input was combined from parents and teachers, and the committees made their final decisions about their texts, including whether we were purchasing them or maintaining what we have. In some cases, we kept some, and then final decisions were forwarded to Mrs. Wesley, who works with the business office to make recommendations.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, with that additional information about the selection process, is there any discussion or questions? Dr. Yin?
Yeah, I really appreciate the information that you all shared, and that's very helpful. And I also appreciate that parents actually are invited to this process and to provide input. And I wonder, just a general question, if parents are interested in getting involved, how do they do that? Or are there any, who are invited, and if people are interested, how to process it? Like who should they reach to?
I'll just speak for our building, and the process they've used as I described it was that those teachers are reaching out to the most recent parents in the past 2 to 3 years that they still have contact with for kids who've been through the course. This year, they were fortunate enough to get a good response to put parents on each committee. In the past, they've had, we really aren't getting many responses, and they might ask me to help assist. Sometimes parent council or just parents that we see in the building, we'll ask them if they're interested in reviewing. But our teachers lead that, and they're the ones that are really, we need them to be comfortable with the selection, so they're seeking out parents that they're familiar with.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. If we could please, all those in favor of title adoption of textbooks and course fees for 22-23, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay. That is 7 ayes and 0 nays. That motion passes. Item number 9, food service bids, and Mrs. Fitzsimmons.
I'm Courtney Fitzsimmons. I'm the food service director. And I wanted to start out by explaining that the food service department is part of a co-op. The reason that we are part of this co-op is because our purchasing power is much greater for 109,000 students versus the 2,300 that we would have by ourselves. So as part of this co-op, I attend monthly meetings. We look at new products, and we decide as a group what will be on the bids for the following year. So the co-op has went ahead and completed their bids for the next school year, and they are requesting that we renew the same distributors that we are currently using, which is Piazza Produce, Dairy Farmers of America, U.S. Foods, Klosterman's for our bread and bakery, Commercial Food Systems for snacks and beverages, and Velvet Ice Cream. Any questions for me?
So we'll go ahead and get a motion on the table, right? That's where we are in this process. All right, can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mrs. Austin, second. Second by Mr. Schatz. All right, questions, discussions? Thank you, Courtney, very much for that information. Questions, Dr. Yin?
Yes, I thank you very much for answering my lot of questions before the meeting, and I learned a lot from the information you provided, and I also understand all the challenges due to the economic situation and our small school size, and and it's how you solve those problems. And so I heard from some parents some concerns about the lunch food. So I wonder, in general, if people have some concerns about some food options, and is it still possible for the company to modify some of the
Yes.
options and things like that?
Yes. So these are just the vendors that we're getting them through, but the products that we get through these vendors are always changing. So as we see, we have to stick to the bid a little bit, but then as we see new items and things like that, we're able to add them to our menus as soon as we can get them through these vendors.
Okay, so if people have concerns, and should they contact you or
Yeah.
to? Okay.
Yeah, yep, they can contact me. My information is on the website too. But yeah, I'm willing and welcome questions about what's on the menu and things that maybe need to be changed, so.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I had one other question for you. We've been in this co-op arrangement for several years now. How many years is it that we've been using this?
We started when I started here, so this is my 4th year.
Okay, so this will be the 4th time that we've
In this
reviewed
co-op.
this. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mrs. Fitzsimmons?
Did you bring any velvet ice cream samples back?
I wish I should have. Next time.
Okay.
Why did you do that? 5 days from today.
All right. All of those in favor of the food service bid item, please raise your hand. That is 7 aye, 0 nay. Moving on to item 10, valuation service, Buckland and Associates, Mr. Olhout.
Yes, so one report that the business office maintains is a capital asset report, and this is part of the requirements of the State Board of Accounts. We were under an agreement with a provider for this service, and unfortunately the gentleman passed away earlier this year, which prompted us to review the report that we had and to assure that it was going to be compliant not only with current SBOA guidelines, but anticipated revisions to the SBOA guidelines of the fixed asset report. And also bearing in mind that with a lot of new projects being finished, that our building valuations and so forth have changed in recent years since the last major update to this report. So we began a process of consulting with several valuation providers, and we've come to the recommendation of Buckland and Associates to provide us with a fresh report, kind of starting from scratch to make sure that we have the best information that we need, not only for the valuation report, but also for our insurance, property and casualty insurance provider, that our over $5,000 assets are properly inventoried, properly accounted for in case there were a loss, that we would be able to quickly recover that. This particular provider has worked with Tippecanoe School Corporation and Lafayette School Corporation over the years, including helping TSC recover when they had the tornado at Southwestern Middle School, which you may remember. So we met with Mr. Buckland in person. We're satisfied that he will do a great job, not only from our discussions with him, but also working with, talking with Mrs. Brackett, the CFO at TSC, who tells us about his great work. So we're pleased to make this recommendation.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Marley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Karpik. I do have one question. Is this the amount of the fee for this service? Is it similar?
Sure. So the fee for the service is going to be, first year for the full comprehensive report is $39,000, which is higher than a maintenance fee, which in subsequent years will be $2,500 plus their time, $120 an hour. But the majority of this work is going to be in the establishment of the original report and a comprehensive inventory of our capital assets.
Any other questions for Mr. Olhoff? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the valuation service Buckland Associates, please raise your hand. 7 ayes, 0 nay. Moving on to item 11, West Lafayette Community School Corporation Health Clinic. Mr. Olhoff.
Last month, we anticipated bringing a recommendation to you, but we tabled it because we had not yet reached full agreement with the provider that we wish to bring to the table today. But since then, we've been able to reach an agreement on both sides. So just as a little bit of history, the health clinic idea, many government units, schools, and so on, including the city of West Lafayette, have a health clinic for their employees as a supplement to their insurance policy. Typically, a health clinic provides some basic primary care services at no out-of-pocket charge to the employee. The employer will pay a monthly fee, typically, to, per capita, to be a member of a health clinic, as is the case here. The idea of a health clinic is that the clinic will provide some basic level services at a lower rate than our insurance provider reimburses those same services elsewhere. So if we have sufficient utilization of the clinic, then we should see a reflection in lower increases to our health insurance premiums over time. So we asked Proactive MD and Everside to provide us with some feasibility studies, which they did. The Proactive MD one took longer than anticipated because of delays in getting data from Anthem. But in our analysis of these proposals and also a survey that we took this spring, and we were able to get some feedback from employees on what was important to them in terms of using a clinic. And what we found is that, for example, about 26% of our employees find it important that they be able to, that the clinic be in West Lafayette. Well, the Everside Clinic is in West Lafayette. 23.3% view it as important, the most important criterion, that they be able to access the clinic during the day. The Proactive MD clinic that we would be a part of if we were to join that one, its ultimate location is going to be right across the street from McCutcheon High School. So that could be a bit of a challenge to access that clinic compared to the Everside Clinic, which is actually located on Kent Avenue here in West Lafayette. And city employees are part of that clinic at this time too. So with all of these considerations in mind, we think that our best chance of achieving a significant return on investment on this and achieve the utilization we need to get there would be by joining the Everside Clinic. So that's our proposal at this time. And back when we did the ESSER 3 budget in the summer of 21, we included a line item for this so that we will not be paying these costs directly out of the insurance over/under fund for at least the first year. So that'll allow us to mitigate some cost risk there as we assess whether this clinic will be a continued positive return on investment. One of the negotiation points with the Everside Clinic was making sure that we had an out provision. So we were able to negotiate a 60-day out provision at any time. Originally, that was going to be after a 3-year period. So we have the 60-day out provision at any time we determine that it's not in our best interest to continue. So at this time, we recommend your approval of the agreement that was in the packet.
Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mr. Marley. Second by Mr. Schatz. Thank you, Mr. Olhoff. Take a break. A lot. Any questions?
I don't see a lot of risk or downside to this. ESSER funds are paying for it. You have a 60-day out clause if it's not working out.
Correct.
The first year's deficit, but after that, it gets positive and it stays positive.
Right.
And that's not even looking at the premium increase that we might have or not have, depending on what our census looks like.
That's right. And we will get updates from Everside on a regular basis on the utilization. So we'll be able to see whether it is kind of meeting the targets that we know we'll need in order for this to have a positive ROI.
I think the other benefit is it's providing enhanced care for our staff.
Exactly. And we hope that the convenience factor will drive the utilization, the fact that it's close by. And the clinic also has staggered hours. So some days it has early morning hours, some days it has later afternoon and evening hours. So depending on people's schedule, hopefully they can find the time to utilize them.
Does it provide, as I recall, it provides both well care and sick care? Is that true?
That's true. You can use the clinic kind of in lieu of or in supplement to a primary care physician. They're able to handle long-term sort of chronic things that you might want to be managed, like diabetes or things of that nature as well. So in addition to more acute things,
Right.
where you have a flu or something and you need to go in for a doctor visit.
Any other questions?
Thanks for all your work on this.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. There's a time at the beginning and the end of the meeting for agenda and non-agenda items, so. Questions, anybody else?
Yeah, I
Dr.
do
Yin?
have questions. So, yeah, it's a great survey was done this year, and to better understand our teacher staff members' needs. And I just feel in the survey result, I haven't just seen questions like whether they would like to use the health clinic and the estimated frequency of their visits and that sort of information. And so with that, we can better estimate the cost and the gain. But good thing is, and as what Brad said, we can withdraw with the 60 days if it turned out our teachers won't use it as much as we anticipated, right? So because right now, actually, from the survey, it looks like nearly 80% of people are happy with the current provider, I think. When I look at it.
Yes, and we actually did a survey last year in March too, and noticed similar things, that generally speaking, people are satisfied or highly satisfied with their current provider. The issue is convenience. Can they actually get an appointment with their primary care physician? So the driving factor, we think, will be convenience and whether people can get to the clinic more readily than they can get to their primary care doctor.
Okay, so now we sort of decide, we pick the provider, and we know where this provider is located, and all the details like the fee and the accessibility and all that. I just wonder, is it possible at all for us to just cast another quick survey and provide the information, the real information to our staff members, say, hey, that's what we are going to pick. And with this, the location, hour, everything, and what they can do, and the physician, their nurses, whatever, all the information they have, and ask them, are you willing to use this clinic? I just feel I'm still kind of a little bit answer. I always support our teachers. I wish to give their best benefit, but at the same time, if we will spend the money on this, alternative can be, let's say we divide the money, give each teacher $100 per month as a supplement or something. I don't know how the budget works, but that can be an alternative. We save the money, we give the money directly to teachers, or we use it for the clinic, but if people don't use it as much as we wish, then we lose money that way. I just trying to figure out whether it's possible at all. Before we finalize it, can we say, hey, tentatively, this is the provider we choose. Are you willing to use it? And just one question, pretty much. Then let's see percentage of people who are going to use it if, like, their quite that like majority of people are going to use it, and that's great because right now the survey I can see it's almost 80% of them say we are happy with the current primary care provider. So I'm really not very sure about this.
Trial period.
That means we will start to use it. Then we wait for some time to figure out. We will at least spend 3 months money for this try. On the other hand, we can just cast one question and say, hey, here's a provider. All the information, this clinic is located at where, and provide all the information for this. Because right now the survey seems to me, when people responded to the survey, they don't know exactly where it is, what kind of physicians are there, and whether, I just feel it's a kind of, they don't know what they will be given.
So I think if I understand what you're saying, you're just, I want to understand what you're saying, that you're questioning if the teachers really want this and will use it.
Yeah.
So that's where not just using survey data is really helpful, because I know you also have spoken with the teachers in discussion, and there's been more conversations that led into your pursuing this. So could you?
I can elaborate a little bit on
Thanks.
that. So before we did the site visits of a couple of clinics, I was actually approached by some teachers, and this had come up even in years prior, that teachers were very, very interested in this option. Whether specifically, given this particular provider, they are going to definitely use the clinic or not. In the 2021 survey, I did specifically ask, would you use a health clinic given these criteria? And the response was overwhelmingly in the 90-some%. It all boils down to, I think, the real world data. I certainly don't argue with the notion that if we ask with the specific details of this clinic, that will you use this, that might give us some interesting information. I do worry a little bit about the timing of putting it off any further in terms of being able to promote the clinic with the staff and get the implementation in place by August or September, which is our goal.
Okay, is it possible just table it for 1 month? Now we tentatively say, hey, this is the provider we choose. Because if I remember correctly, the other districts actually are using the other provider.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying the other is better. Actually, I heard feedback from some teachers. They said the other one had trouble serving people during the pandemic because of the labor shortage. And so, so this one is different from the other one. And I just feel it will be helpful for people to know, what we will have, and then give us information whether they will use it. And then I will feel more sure to say, yes, great.
So the motion on the table is for this that has been presented by Mr. Olhout. So we're at a place where we'll vote on that motion, and because that's where we are. And if you would like to vote no, that's okay. That's your prerogative, of course. But we have to proceed with voting on this now as it's been presented to us, and then, or you can move to table it for another month, and we can have another one issued. But this is the motion that we have. This is the proposal that we have to vote on this evening. Does that help explain the process a little bit?
Yeah, I will propose to table it, and during now in June, and we can just tell the teachers and staff members, hey, here's the provider we plan to use, and given all the information here, would you be willing to use it? And also we can provide the information about how much and people can save by using it, right? So because that's one goal, they will pay less when they use this provider.
Right, well, the clinic would be free to them.
Okay, yeah, so they save money, things like that, so.
So it would be fully in the board's prerogative to, if there's a motion to table, we would follow up, of course.
Okay, so is there a second to Dr. Yin's motion to table this?
Just 1 month.
Okay, so there's not a second, so that motion dies, and we'll proceed with the vote. All those in favor of passing the health clinic proposal by Mr. Olhout this evening, please raise your hand. That would be 6 ayes. All of those opposed? Dr. Yin, do you want to oppose or abstain?
Abstain.
Abstain, okay.
Yeah, because I don't feel I have like.
One abstention, Dr. Yin. And with that, the motion passes. Item number 12, Schuster Consulting Agreement, Mr. Olhout.
Thank you. The Schuster Consulting Agreement is a formalizing of an arrangement we've had with Dr. Dan Schuster for quite some time. He's worked with our district for many years on energy consulting. What he does for us is he looks at energy consumption trends, and he provides recommendations on commodities purchasing strategies such as hedging natural gas purchase, making sure that we're making the best choices with thermostat settings and other energy use. His work has been tremendous for our district for a very long time. Dr. Schuster has a PhD in engineering from Purdue. He's worked for 25 years on risk mitigation of energy commodities and production, distribution, and optimization of energy systems. His services cost us about $300 per month, but they save us a tremendous amount more than that. I strongly recommend that we pass this agreement to keep working with Dr. Schuster.
Can I get a motion on the table? Motion, please. Motion by Mr. Karpik, second by Mrs. Austin. Any questions for Mr. Olhout?
My gosh, you could.
He is over the years, I mean, he's saved us thousands of dollars and at a rate that is almost laughable. What we pay him. Yeah.
We've used him.
Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the Schuster Consulting Agreement, please raise your hand. Would be 7 aye, 0 nay. Moving on to the next item, the School Board of Trustees 2022-23 calendar. Unlike some other school corporations, we run our meeting calendar, our regular meeting calendar based on the academic year, so we can be a little more nimble around our school's calendar. You all know that I've sent you information and asked you to consider. Our current last meeting scheduled is in July, and we'll need to, we're going to address that next. But I asked you to consider 3 options and look at your personal schedules. As you know, this is a meeting held in public, not a public meeting. And the difference is we all have to be able to be around the table consistently, and not just be around the table, but also have time in our schedules to complete our preparation work prior to the meeting. So the options that I threw out there, I have heard, just so you know as information, in total, in the past year, I have heard from 5 patrons who wish us to change the night off of our first Monday of the month. Primarily, the reason for that they give for that desire to change is the conflict with the West Lafayette City Council meeting. But 5 is the number of people that I've heard from in total. The options that I proposed are that we leave it where it is, first Monday of the month at 6:30 p.m. B, that we consider as 7 a.m. on the first Monday of the month, and which Mrs. Austin's already shaking her head at. And the third option, and the reason really for leaving it on the first Monday of the month is to keep our meeting at the head of the month and allow everything else that we work on through the month to process through in a timely manner, payables and that type of thing. The third option would be to move it to the second Monday of every month, also at 6:30 p.m. So with that, we are just going to discuss this tonight. There's not a vote. There is not an exhibit. This is a discussion among board members on your pros and cons and where you would like to see it scheduled. And then I will take away from that the input of the night. And also that opens the opportunity for a community. If more than 5 people want to communicate with us, they have the opportunity to do that. And then Mrs. Julian and I will work on a calendar to vote on in the June meeting for our next academic year. Anybody want to start this?
I'm a big fan of the second Monday of the month, so that city council is no longer in conflict with our meeting.
Okay,
I think a lot of our constituents and interested patrons would like to attend both, including myself. And I think it'd be good if we moved it.
okay. And just so everyone's aware, Dr. Greiner and I both did speak independently with different members of the city about the timing and the schedule, and everybody's got problems with where we move it. Do you have anything to add to that? No?
No.
We'll just have the meeting where we want to have it, right? Dr. Greiner says, please just pick something. Okay. Anybody else?
My only questions for Mr. Oha, what does that do in terms of payables, and does it make it a lot easier if we went to the second Monday of the month? Does that matter to you one way or the other from your perspective?
In some months, it might perhaps make it a little bit easier, depending on where that first Monday falls, to get everything together for payables. If it's on the second Monday, we definitely will have all that, have time to get all that together.
Would the last Monday of the month change that at all if we were to?
I think that would
prior to
probably
the
be
fall?
harder.
That would be harder. 7 a.m. is really difficult for me, Amy. I barely get my children to school.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, the other concern with the morning meeting is that we really enjoy the Way to Go awards, and that would not be kind to our students to request that of them.
Unless you bring donuts, then that might.
Yeah. Anybody, any other comments about the meeting date, time, anything you'd like to add to it?
Second Monday.
Okay. Alrighty, so what'll happen now, if anybody has any change of opinion, anything that, please look at your own personal calendars very carefully, make sure that that will consistently fit you or you can work around it. Do also keep in mind, and we'll bring this up again next month, but there will be an extra week, so the payable reports will look a little bit different when we come back, because we're going to have a longer period of time, have a gap as we adjust the schedule if we do change days. I'm sure I could say that more clearly than I just did. I'm sorry. Okay, anybody else? All right, we'll move on to the next item, cancellation of the July 11th board meeting, and Dr. Greiner.
Pre-COVID, it was brought to my attention that West Lafayette Community Schools has typically canceled the July board meeting, given summer break and the less activity that occurs over the summer. So I would recommend the cancellation of July 5th board meeting and seek authorization to allow the superintendent and the CFO to handle all business personnel operations as necessary, with formal approval, though, to actually occur in August. So approval will still occur via the board, but that would occur in August instead of July.
Can I get a motion? Moved by Mr. Karpik.
Second.
Second by Mr. Marley.
Just to clarify, the first Monday is July 4th, but that's obviously July 4th, so that's why it would be the 11th.
Correct.
Yes. Thank you. So yeah, this isn't a change in our calendar. Yeah. There also is the anticipation, of course, while the work in the schools is reduced a little bit, while school is not in session, we do still anticipate training and board retreat and that type of work to happen in that month. So that isn't quite as easy as it sounds. Yes.
Needed if it was
Yes.
necessary.
As we've had the past 2 summers.
Correct.
Yes. Past 2 summers, there have been special July meetings. That's right.
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions for Dr. Reiner? Any?
I hope your central office also get a summer break.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of canceling our July 11th meeting, please raise your hand. That is 7 aye, 0 nay. And that motion passes. Moving on to item 13, Aquatic Center Summer Programs. Dr. Greiner.
We'd like to recommend that the continuation of summer aquatics programs occur. The summer program guide has already been sent out to families via Skyward. It is on the website with explanation of the opportunities that may be forthcoming. And so these are swim programs being offered, and we would seek approval.
Can I get a motion, please? Oh, I'm sorry, just information.
Okay.
No vote on that one. Thank you. All right, moving on. Are there any questions for Dr. Reiner before we move on? Okay. I would like to just make one comment. I was very impressed in looking at that, at the effort to draw children into aquatics who maybe had not been in them as a young child. So trying to help build the swim team and offer opportunities there. It's really a great approach.
It's such beautiful facilities for that to occur.
There, yeah. Okay, moving on to item 14, 2023 budget calendar. Mr. Olhout, information.
So this is for information only today. This is just a reminder of how the calendar for the development of the 2023 budget. So over the summer is when we do a lot of our preparation work for the 2023 budget. There will be a workshop. The IDOE budget workshop will occur at the end of June. Various bits of information regarding excise taxes and other estimated revenues will be provided to us also in July. We'll get an estimate of our circuit breaker losses for next year in early August. Then, since the board calendar isn't yet approved for next year, I don't have specific dates in here. They just correspond to the month. So at the August work session for the board, we'll have a review of the 2023 budget. At the September board meeting, we'll have a public hearing on the 2023 budget so that we can meet our statutory deadline of October 12th to make sure that we have Form 3 posted to Gateway. We'll also have the bus replacement plan published and posted by this time. At the October board meeting, we will ask you to approve the 2023 budget and bus replacement plans. And the statutory deadline for that is November 1st. So several days after that, I think we have 3 days after that, that we would then post the approval to Gateway. So then in December, the DLGF will provide us with a review of make sure that our budget is in order and everything will be finalized in January. So that's kind of an overview of the 2023 budget calendar.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Olhout about that schedule?
About the schedule of the board meetings, but if we were to move the meetings to September 12th and October 10th and November 14th, that makes those really tight turnarounds for you, and it looks like we would possibly even miss that November. Is that going to overly complicate your life?
Well, if we have, so the statutory deadline for the public hearing is actually October 12th. So if we meet September 12th, we would be okay.
A month ahead.
We're a month ahead.
Gotcha. You're so
All right, anything else for Mr. Olhout? All right, that's information only. So moving on to item 15, check removal, Mr. Olhout.
Indiana statute requires us to remove from our books any checks that are outstanding or for more than 2 years as of December 31st of any given year. So any checks dated prior to 2020 are void by statute, and we need the board to approve our cancellation of those. So I ask your approval for the motion to cancel those checks prior to 2020.
Okay, can I get a motion, please? Moved by Dr. Springer, second by Mrs. Alston. Questions for Mr. Olhout? Dr. Yin?
If those people found they didn't check the deposited check, but the check is canceled, can they still apply to have it?
They can't use that particular check. They could see us with proof of their claim, and we could potentially reissue a check, but we can't. Banks are not allowed to cash any of these checks at this point.
Yeah, so they can reapply.
Yeah, they could, if they could
Okay, thank you.
provide justification.
Any other questions for Mr. Olhout? Okay, something else we do every year. All those in favor of check removal, please raise your hand. Is 7 aye, 0 nay. Moving on to item 16 and the personnel report. Dr. Greiner.
I'd like to request approval of the personnel report as presented, but before we move forward, I'd remind the board that Mrs. Anna Roth is being recommended as Assistant Superintendent. This is the result of an interview process that began clear back in March 9th to be exact, and went through April 15th. We posted on the corporation website, we posted on the Indiana Department of Education, and then we also posted through the Indiana School Board Association website. We screened applicants down to 5 for in-person interviews. Screening considerations included licensure, education level, experience in central office, and experience as a principal, preferred experience in central office with a curriculum background, and preferred experience in high school as a principal or as a teacher. And we required a superintendent license since it's an assistant superintendent, and then a degree of EDS, PhD, or EDD. Our first round of interviews consisted of 11 members on an interview committee, and those included teachers, principals, central office staff, board members, and we had traditional questions, interview questions that were asked during that period. From there, we narrowed it down to 2 applicants for the second round. All 11 members agreed that the 2 applicants were the right ones to move forward, and that we're very comfortable with narrowing it down to those 2 candidates. And so for the second round, there were principals, Mrs. Laws from central office, and Dr. Greiner. And then during the second round, we did move from the traditional questions to performance-based tasks, and the 2 applicants needed to complete data analysis as well as present on a professional development activity. The committee was unanimous in the recommendation of the applicant that we have before you today, Mrs. Anna Roth.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please, to approve the personnel report? Moved by Mr. Schott. Second by Mr. Karpik. Any questions for Dr. Greiner? Okay, hearing none. All of those in favor of approving the personnel report, please raise your hand. That would be 7 aye, 0 nay. It is my great pleasure to introduce Mrs. Anna Roth. If you would please come forward and introduce yourself. And I know Dr. Reiner's planning a little bit more of a meet and greet when we're not in the painful part of May for everyone's schedule, but we'd love to hear from you this evening.
Sure. Well, I do want to thank everyone who participated in the interview committee, and everyone in the community, actually, because school board and the schools are a reflection of the community. So I very much so appreciate the trust and the endorsement that you're putting in me. The people that I've already met are very welcoming and very committed to students, and I find that exciting. I am eager to meet more and more people and better understand the West Side way so that I can help support that as we move forward. West Lafayette schools are already doing wonderful things for kids, and I'm excited that we could do even more wonderful things together. So I thank you.
Thank you. It's a little bit anticlimactic, but we are going to move on to item 17, accounts payable, and Mr. Olhout.
So the accounts payable this month are a total of $3,7822.23, of which $968,901.77 are payroll deductions of $453,323.11, other claims of $1,519,200.92. WEVAC claims are $57,286.43, and construction projects $9,110. Of the claims that we have, a lot of it is Anthem. We had delayed billing for several months of our health insurance premiums, which resulted in a pretty large payment to Anthem. I also would like to point out that this month You'll notice that there was not a payment to Pine Mesa LLC or Ross Sloat. And that's just due to the timing of receiving his invoice this month. There wasn't enough time to get it in this report. However, the last 2 invoices from Mr. Sloat will appear on the June accounts payable. And this will include finishing out a payment on a memorandum of understanding that was signed in 2019, as well as extra hours that Mr. Sloat accrued as a result of serving as acting superintendent for parts of 2021 and 2022. Included in this packet is information related to the MOU, copies of the MOU, as well as his agreement that he's been working under, and the last 2 months worth of invoice. And again, the expectation is that this will be finished paying out on the June accounts payable. So with that, I'll ask your approval of the accounts payable.
Wonderful. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mrs. Alston.
Second.
Second by Mr. Marley. Questions for Mr. Olhout? Okay. Hearing none, all of those in favor of paying our bills this month, please raise your hand. That is 7 ayes, 0 nay. Moving on to information to the board. I've got a couple of exciting things to tell you about. I am going to make Mr. Olhout blush a little bit, but it is deserved. I am in receipt of a letter from Dennis, I'm going to mispronounce it, Kosterison? Kosterison. Okay. Mr. Dennis received this letter. Dear Ms. Witt, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Indiana Association of School Business Officials, I am very pleased to announce that Stephen Olhout has completed the required courses for the Indiana ASBO Voluntary Certification Program. His certification designation is Chief Business Officer, which requires 99 hours of instruction. This certification acknowledges the experience and knowledge that Stephen has regarding the school business management arena. Indiana ASBO created the certification program to recognize the professional achievements of its members. To qualify for certification, an individual must be an IASBO member and fulfill the personal, ethical, and professional requirements as established by the Indiana Association of School Business Officials. Stephen is an outstanding individual who is a credit to the West Lafayette Community Schools and Indiana ASBO. And I really want to thank you. That was a lot of work and a time of a lot of work. And so I appreciate, on behalf of the board, I want to thank you for your commitment to our schools. And then also at the recent ISBA, Indiana School Boards Association Region 4 training, West Lafayette Community School Corporation was awarded with the commendable level of Indiana School Board Association Exemplary Governance Awards Program for the calendar year 2021. And this award actually has a lot of implication to it, and Dr. Springer explains it much better than I do. So please explain.
So the ISBA, Indiana School Board Association, holds conferences, trainings, and webinars throughout the year, providing, it's our professional development, board member professional development and continuous improvement. And there, as Mrs. Witt indicated, we have received the commendable level. There are 4 award levels, not only for school boards, but also for individuals. And it's based upon accumulation of points. When you attend a conference, when you attend a webinar, when you attend a training, you will receive points. And it's accumulation of points over your continuous service as a school board member. So level 1 is the commendable award, and that means the majority of the school board members have attained 75 points in professional development training. And just want to say that the West Lafayette Community School Corporation Board is intentional about and committed to continuous professional development. And this marks our 20-some year of being recognized as a commendable board.
Thank you. Great hard work. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, give credit to Dr. There's a Hall of Fame for your involvement with the ISBA, but also all the work that you've done and helping all of us over the years to make sure we were committed to that. And they've done a great job. And as a colleague, I just want to say I appreciate that. So thank you.
I do as well. It is, ongoing training is a critical part of what we do and understanding our role in governance. And then finally, we'll go to board and superintendent reports. Mr. Karpik, we can start with you tonight.
Get my notes to show back up. I'm reporting on the West Lafayette Schools Education Foundation. We had the Wall of Pride on April 7th and 8th. It was really a terrific event, and hopefully a lot of folks were able to be there. I was there at the reception the night before. Thrilled to have the convocation and heard a number of really good responses to this class. It was an opportunity to meet them. I actually had a class member in my class at West Lafayette that was honored as well. And I think it's not only a diverse outfit, but also an outfit that brought a lot of different divergent opinions to our students, and a really good experience, I think, at the convocation. I don't think anybody will forget Chris Perenni's. If you haven't seen that, you should see it on Facebook. And he also did a thing for his Denver television station about West Lafayette schools, which was great. So the work that Wendy Ayler has done, and Tom obviously has done it as well as a board member on it for a number of years, it's been really great. Also, make sure on graduation, that on the night of graduation, I believe we'll be we'll be presenting 32 scholarships for $33,000, and it'll be recognized at a reception prior to commencement. The plan, I believe, for commencement is to be at Barbarian Gym, and usually this event is at 5 p.m. I don't know if I'm missing something, but I believe that's usually when it is. It's really a great event, an opportunity to honor our senior students with the particular scholarship awards that they have been awarded, and it's a neat event to do if you have the opportunity to go. That's it for me.
Mr. Marley?
Okay, so this is regarding the Economic Development Commission that I serve on and also represent the school board as a member. We approved a 5-year tax abatement on personal property and investment relating to the expansion of the Rolls-Royce plant operation. Currently employs 15 people, and the plan is to go to 30 employees with jobs that pay on average of $90,000 per year. The total estimated investment, I think, is $400 million. So that will not be on the tax roll for the next 5 years. But the good news is it's outside our taxing district. And it's also inside Purdue's area, where they have some responsibility to service the debt load on the State Street project. It's a long story, but needless to say, it's a great addition for our community, and it's really not going to have an impact on us monetarily, but it's going to add some nice jobs to our community. And that's on the table for tonight at City Council, among many other subjects.
We probably can. And just to confirm, yes, graduation, please, I've noted that to everyone, but it is May the 27th at 7 p.m. Mr. Shaw?
A couple other foundation notes, and what Alan said, the second semester teacher grants were received and awarded, 5 applications, 5 grants, totaling about $8,000. So Mary Beth Whitman and her team continue to do great things in that regard. And the Senior Legacy Project at the junior senior high school will be a flag mural that will replace the flags that used to hang in the cafeteria area. So that'll be forthcoming. And for long-range planning, homecoming is September 9th this fall.
Okay, Dr. Springer?
From the park board, 80 people provided input to the Happy Hollow Park survey, which was conducted in March. This survey was designed to get public input on additional activities that they want at Happy Hollow Park. And the survey is a joint venture between the West Lafayette Parks and Rec Department and a Purdue anthropology professor. And we're awaiting the report from the anthropology department. For GLASS, the fourth and final GLASS Governing Board meeting for this school year was held on Tuesday, April 19th. GLASS did receive the Federal American Rescue Plan funding for school-aged children, $1.3 million. The money has to be expended by September 30th, 2023, and the staff at GLASS staff has determined it will go to certified and non-certified staff, special ed training, an additional nurse, a contracted behavioral therapist, conference travel, supplies, technology, etc. GLASS has many certified staff openings for the 2022-23 school year: an autism consultant, behavior consultant, blind low vision consultant, deaf hard of hearing consultant, a preschool teacher, 2 psychologists, and 6 speech and language pathologists. So if you know of anyone with those skill sets looking for employment, please refer them to GLASS. Board teacher discussion was held on Thursday, April 21st. We discussed an update from central office on the new transportation plan, 2 professional development days for 2022-23, and then new legislative requirements relating to e-learning. Policy committee, we continue meeting every 2 to 3 weeks. And we are working on policy revisions that are mandated by the federal government and Indiana state law. And most of the revised policies that we approved tonight are the result of new federal laws, particularly, as Dr. Greiner mentioned, concerning Title IX legislation. And we're from special updates from May 2021. Next month, we move on to October 21 policy updates, and that'll be about half of those updates.
Thank you. Mrs. Alston.
Don't have a whole lot. The Tippecanoe County Foundation is working on their cupcake stuff for the fall, and the legislature is out of session, and community council is coming back in the fall.
Wonderful. Dr. Yin?
No update. Okay, so just about, may I make one more comment regarding the health clinic though? I shouldn't.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Just wonder whether then after we start to use it, will we still kind of monitor the usage and the satisfaction and so on, so that way, we know and whether we should continue or use the money
Absolutely.
and give the money to teachers directly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll keep an eye on the usage. And I would also say that the portion of this that's coming from ESSER 3, if we were to stop short on this at some point, we would follow the federal guidelines on reallocating ESSER 3 and look at that afresh.
Okay. Great, thanks.
I just want to make sure that I understand, though, that if what I'm hearing is you're proposing that we give, if this doesn't work, that we would give money directly to teachers.
Yeah,
And that's not legal to do that, is that?
We would have to go back and do a budget amendment on ESSER 3, because the ESSER 3 budget that allowed us to do the health clinic in the first place, all of its line items were approved by the Indiana Department of Education in following federal guidelines for the budgeting of ESSER 3. So whatever we would do with that allocation would have to go through a budget amendment process and follow all of the federal guidelines related to ESSER 3, which may or may not include, for example, a direct payment to teachers. It has to somehow or another fall within the parameters that the federal government has put out for ESSER 3. So we would just have to look at, the board would have to look at priorities and decide what we could possibly do, and we'd have to take another look at what those federal guidelines are.
Okay, so, it's, I originally thought we can split the money, then give each teacher $100 per month or something like that, so it's not that.
It wouldn't be quite that simple.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure you didn't leave here thinking that was something that was possible.
Yeah,
If that's-
we couldn't do it quite that directly. We'd have to look at the guidelines.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, communication from the audience, non-agenda items. We have one person signed up, Mr. Janes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry, Mr. Janes. I should allow the superintendent to speak.
I'll go quick, I promise. First of all, I want to celebrate our West Lafayette Wind Ensemble. They earned a coveted spot among 16 bands in the entire state, and we are a small school compared to some of those other school corporations, so it's pretty impressive. Speaks volumes of our students, families, and staff that are supporting our fine students. So we perform at Isthmus State Finals next Saturday at Lawrence Central High School. Again, congratulations to our amazing students and our dedicated families and staff. It's also Teacher Appreciation Week, and so I just want to extend my deep appreciation to our staff, the teachers dedicated to the service of our students. I often reflect back to teachers that I'll remember throughout my life, and I shared that with staff today, and I remember, I don't really necessarily, and this quote is one of my favorites, at the end of the day, people may remember, at the end of the day, people won't remember what you said to them, but they will remember how you made them feel. And I can think of the way certain special teachers made me feel throughout my career. And I hear my own children talking about those teachers that have those extra special relationships with them. And every teacher in our district, thank you for your selflessness and your tireless efforts in our classrooms. We appreciate you. I also want to state that at this time, I'd like to report to the board that the deadline for legal services has the windows closed, and I can report that we've received 4 proposals. We also received a letter of a firm that stated they are not accepting additional work at this time, but we do have 4 proposals for the members of the board that are going to be initially reviewing that to review. Our office will prepare materials and binders for the members that are reviewing, and then that work will be facilitated by our board president, Mrs. Witt. And so that concludes my report.
Thank you. So sorry. Didn't mean to skip you. All right, Mr. James, you're up. Communications from the audience, non-agenda items.
Recent events have shown that state lawmakers and regulators think that it's important for the community to have input in decisions made by local school boards. This spring, the state legislature passed House Bill 1130 and Senate Bill 83, which require local school boards to allow public comment before making a final decision on an issue. To be fair, this school board has generally provided an opportunity for public comment on agenda items, and I appreciate that. However, the only information available to the public in advance about agenda items is the few words on the agenda. For example, on today's agenda, continuing disclosure. Lacking information about the items being voted on, the community has little opportunity to provide useful input. Just last week, a new charter school was approved to operate in Lafayette. A state regulator who voted against the proposal was concerned that the community was not informed and supportive of the charter school's plans, as evidenced by the fact that only one person came to the local public hearing about it. She asked, did people in Lafayette even know this was happening? Do we do enough to let them know? I think the same question applies. Do we do enough to let the community know about the issues? Recently, the board has begun releasing information about agenda items after the board meeting. And for this meeting, the board meeting agenda, it listed policy items that are being reviewed. And as we saw, these policy items will not be approved until there's a second reading. And this gives the community the opportunity to learn about these policy changes. These are great starts and very much appreciated. However, I would ask the board to go a step further and provide more information about agenda items to the community before the board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. Okay, future meetings. Our next regular board meeting, Monday, June the 6th at 6:30 p.m. right here, where the chiller does seem to be working this evening. Also, keep in mind there's a reception for our West Lafayette retirees prior to that meeting at 5:30 here in this same space, and then we'll be recognizing them at the meeting itself. And then finally, just keep in mind, board documents and audio from this meeting tonight will be posted on the website within 7 to 10 days following this meeting. And a big thank you to Mrs. Julian for her efforts to make that happen for us.
Before this ends, I do want to make a point about.
I'm really.
Can I just make my point? Without the context of the meeting, it's really hard. Otherwise, we're just sitting here and we can't talk about anything. It's not like I'm trying to contradict what you're saying, but is that a rule that is by the board? I just want to know. I just remember.
Right, so the way that we actually are, we exceed the current and the July 1, the law that will be in place on July 1, where we allow communication from the audience prior to the meeting, agenda items and non-agenda items.
I feel this is very weird. If we could just sit in the audience, we don't know what's going on, can't talk. It's really very weird too.
So
coming to the meeting, I actually have a hard stop. I came because somebody told me to go. I find it very weird to sit and not be able to participate in the meeting. So it's not my meeting. Thank you.
if you would like to,
I want to leave.
Okay.
And stuff. Thanks a lot.
oh, okay. For those of you, so you're all aware, we, as always, encourage you to contact the corporation office or any of us school board members with any questions that you have about what happens here in any of our meetings or what happens in our schools, and we're always happy to have those conversations with people as needed. So with that, I'm going to adjourn our meeting this evening. It is, oh gosh, darn it.
So moved.
Almost perfect. No, it wasn't close. Okay. So can I get a motion, please, to adjourn? So moved by Mr. Schott. Second by Dr. Springer. All of those in favor, please raise your hands.
Comments, I feel they actually ask similar questions about the information. So I wonder, you know, I heard similar comments from other parents. For example, even if they come to the meeting without having the information beforehand or not even projected here, they cannot follow what's going on. And so we, you know, we have time to study all the information and beforehand, and still it's kind of moving really fast. So I wonder, by any chance, we can improve this by either sharing the information, sharing the information beforehand, even the training from the ISBA, actually they encourage the board members to do so.
Right, so thank you for your comments, Dr. Yin. As I mentioned in my notes out to the board previously, we are acting well and above the current law and the law that's anticipated on July 1, and that this is a conversation that we need to have as a board, but we've not placed it at the top of our priority list, so it's a conversation that we will have. But we need to work through all the different agenda items that we have. We can't do all the things at once. So that was the thought process. So I don't want you to feel I'm disregarding your comment. Thank you for it, but we will have the conversation, but not tonight.
And even from the board members' perspective, I feel if we are able to share the package beforehand, I can, you know, hear feedback from the community so I can better represent them, because for some of the issues I don't necessarily have knowledge about, and if I hear feedback from the community, I can know better, because I don't know everything. So I will appreciate that from that perspective as well.
Thank you for your feedback, Dr. Yin. Okay, so can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting this evening? I've already done, I don't have to go back to that? Okay, we're not re-motioning. Good gravy. Can I have a show of hands, please, that this meeting is adjourned? The vote is 7 ayes, 0 nays. The meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all for your time tonight.